Going on, everyone? Welcome, Rabid here, and today we're going to be checking out some ZEPH hash rates, which will be the same hash rates as Monero. They both use the same algorithm, RandomX, but this is the Ryzen 5950x. Now, we're not going to be able to push this guy too much because all we are using is a thermal take. It's a $20 cooler. I think right now on Amazon they're only like $13 Canadian, so they're very cheap. I've been running this thing for months on end now with this. Temperatures are usually 70 to 80 degrees, so you do got to be careful, but unlike a GPU, CPUs are pretty much indestructible and they can handle that heat. Again, you know, it has been running pretty solid here for me, so I'm going to be checking this out. You know, when you're CPU mining, cooler doesn't really matter. You're not overclocking and doing crazy voltage spikes like when you are with games. We're simply undervolting and doing some mining here, so don't have to splurge on big coolers. Like I said, this thing was 20 bucks when I got it. It's down to only like 16 or 15 or maybe $13 Canadian right now on Amazon. Regardless, it's a cheap cooler here. I just want to see my default settings before I look here. It looks like I'm running 3.5 all-core overclock, and my RAM has XMP off. It's only running at 2133, or over here you can see 2140 megahertz. So I'm just going to run this, see what our power consumption and stuff looks like. This is the settings I've been running it on forever, and then we'll kind of do a little bit of tweaking, turn it on XMP and stuff. This is the G.Skill Flare X, the nice low latency CL14 RAM. So let's take a look at some hash rates on this CPU. So it is looking like we are around that 149 to 155 watt range with about 14.3 kilohash with the high of, okay, focus buddy, 14.5. So we're going with 14.3 kilohash. Okay, so we jumped into the BIOS here, and I am now going to enable that XMP profile. So this is just the standard overclock settings for this RAM. So we're going to go into here, and now it should bump it up to 3.2 or 3200 megahertz. So now we're running full speed RAM, and then after this we'll do the DRAM calculator test because this is the same G.Skill RAM. The timings will be the same I found in all the sticks that I've had. So we're going to do that after this test, but let's see if we get any hash boost and how much power that uses. Also, this is an X570 motherboard. In general, it's going to use more power as well. As you can see, we have extra heatsink cooling going on here for the VRAMs, and you know, all sorts of other stuff going on the motherboard. So these motherboards do use more power. They're more for gaming, so you're better off. You will save more power, and it's cheaper getting X470s, B550s, 4550s, and so on. They will all work for mining and use less power other than the big Hulk models like this. So we're going to hit F10, save and apply, hit the yes button, pull off our GPU, and we'll begin seeing what our hash rates look like. All right, guys, so we are now sitting at 15.8 kilohash. So we're looking like about a 1.5 kilohash boost by enabling XMP profile. Our power is upwards of 178 watts on the peak there. So we've seen quite a bit more power here. All right, so I did adjust a bunch of the settings. The ones that are still auto were just the same settings that DRAM calculator said to put. So the ones I manually changed here on the left hand side are all the settings that I actually did. I'll just kind of run through them here. So I'll just fast forward all the way down. You can see a bunch of settings are changed on the left there where there's no autos anymore. Now I'm just going to hit F10 and boot that up, and hopefully nothing crashes. All right, guys, we are rocking 16 kilohash or 16,072 to 75 hashes here. Our peak is about 16.1. Pretty much 16.2 kilohash, but yeah, we're rocking 16 kilohash now with the DRAM calculator timings. So we are around 172 watts. It's actually down a little bit. I did open a window because the CPU was starting to get pretty warm, so that's probably why we have less power here, but yeah, we're 172 watts and 16 kilohash. My current temps right now are 78 degrees. So like I said, I always have this thing running around 80 degrees all the time anyway. So these temps are all right. Even though it looks red, don't worry about it. This is a CPU and they are indestructible. AMD says they can actually run 24/7 upwards to 90 degrees. So that's pretty insane. So AMD's website says the base clock is 3.4. We're already at 3.5, so we are in that boost parameter range, and we could crank this up to 4.9. Obviously, I can't do this now because the cooler will definitely not support that type of heat. All right, guys, so I actually dropped the voltage down one more notch. We'll see if it runs. I'm also dropping the voltage of the RAM. You can see right there it's running 1.38. I brought it down to 1.25. Now, I always recommend don't change RAM voltage or anything until you know your CPU is stable. As I just changed both, I won't know what's actually crashing my rig if it doesn't want to run. So just recommended, make sure you get your CPU stable first, and then you play with your RAM timings and your voltages. That way, if it goes down, you know that it's your RAM is the issue, not your CPU. But you know what? I just want to see if this will run right now and if we'll be a bit more efficient. Guess what? It didn't like that. As you can see, as soon as I hit the save button, it crashed. But that's okay. You can play around with this all you want. You get crashing, instability, it's okay. You just start over again and reset everything. As we can see, I changed 2 settings, so I don't know what it is. I'm assuming it was probably the RAM in this case because it did reset everything. Uh-oh, guys. So I shut it off to pull off the GPU, turned it back on, and it won't fire back up. Look at it. It just flashes and nothing. So who can tell me what is wrong right now? Remember, we just saw the BIOS reset. So what does that mean? Power cable. We got to go back in here. I totally forgot about that. And we got to plug this in and tell it to turn on after power reset. So if you run into an issue, BIOS reset, and it's not turning on after, that is your fix. You got to use a power button again and then set that BIOS back up because it's back to stock settings. All right, guys, moment of truth. Power on button here. Be sure to hit that subscribe button, like this video, or this thing is going to explode. We are good. All right, guys, don't worry. We're all good. Nothing wrong here. Nothing to see here. I got to get spamming that delete key so that we can get back to that BIOS. But things are up and running. I think I'm just going to go back to what I had it on before. I might enable that XMP profile. Was using a bit more power, but you know, we'll see what we end up with here. All right, so with just XMP profile on, that 3.5, I did drop the voltage down to 0.974. We're still at that 18 or that 15.8 kilohash here. We did drop some power down to 165 at the peak with that voltage. Oh, I guess 166 there at that peak. It's also cooling down a bit here because I do have that window open. So that's also helping the power, as I do find the cooler everything runs, the more efficient and power that you save on it. That's why I don't usually heat my house with my electricity, because I keep these cool and I do drop power between all the rigs quite a bit. And because we did drop that voltage some more, our temperatures, do another refresh here, are lower as well, as we're hanging out about 72 degrees, which is still red, but perfectly fine in my eyes. All right, guys, so that pretty much does wrap up this video. So I did drop the voltage a bit, so I am gonna have to monitor this rig for the next couple days to see if it does go down at all, because I might have to peak it back up one more notch where I had it, because I haven't changed it. So one thing to do anytime you change settings on your CPU to really know if it's stable, it does take a couple days of solid mining to see if it will go down or not. So keep that in the back of your mind when changing settings around. Just because it booted up and began mining doesn't mean it's going to stay stable at that after a couple hours to a couple days. So you know what, we'll see what happens in 2 or 3 days time if this thing is still running or not. Now here's some quick numbers that you can kind of see. Kind of block that light there so you can see it better. So there's my writing on my page, the 5950x RandomX 3.5 gigahertz gigahash. No, not gigahash, that's gigahertz. But XMP on off DRAM calculator, the voltage I got there, the hash rate, and the power consumption at the wall. That is your entire rig. No GPU is unplugged every time I did check the power here. So this is the full rig that the power company is going to charge you with for mining here. But look in the interesting part here, when we did hit that 16 kilohash there, that's pretty close, slightly less than the 3950x with the DRAM calculator. So if I flip back to the previous page, when we did do the 3950X there the other day, we did hit 16.2. That was 193 watts at 3.8. Where in this one with the DRAM calculator, 1.1 volt, you know, we did have a lot more voltage there, but I might have just had a crappy 3950X bad silicon there. But we can see at 3.5, we did hit that 16 at 177 watts. So we are a bit more efficient. We're also using less voltages. So then that could be more tests we got to do in the future, trying these lower voltages. I'm not sure why I was at 1.1, but it could be a crappy CPU based on what I had it on in the first place. So there we go, guys. There's some 5950X RandomX hash rates. Thank you for checking out this video. I will see you on the next one. Rabid out.